Welcome all you plus two common modifiers back to the stream. Welcome back to Solving the Witness. This is a laid-back discussional Let's Play where we try to uncover the deeper meaning behind Jonathan Blow's The Witness. And today we are currently at 161 panels completed plus 36. And last time we were talking about, there's a monolith. We were talking about the sound forest here. Through the bamboo, which is easily the most frustrating part of the game. I think it's the hardest. People may disagree with that, but like it's purposely like frustrating. Editor Noah here, and once again you hear me grousing about how much I do not like the bamboo sound jungle. But Matthias actually has a great comment about this, so I wanted to read this. This was left on my last video. I see progress in terms of the framed puzzles, or the panels, as an analogy or metaphor for intellectual insight. The different areas of the game might represent different paths of knowledge, or areas of knowledge, or separate perspectives. When you activate a laser, this is an analogy for having mastered a certain area of knowledge. The paths in the game world that you would traverse are literally different ways of approaching puzzles or questions, i.e., different sequences of thought that lead to certain solvable questions. In the framework of understanding, what does this mean for the blocked path? Well, it's quite easy. It means that you progressed in gaining knowledge. Certain ways of thinking have become inaccessible to you. This can be quite easy when you apply it to logical thinking. When getting better at logically thinking, certainly opens up new possibilities to you. Other sequences of thought you had before become inaccessible for you now because you can see immediately how they are illogical. You simply cannot walk the path anymore with your thoughts. I love this. This makes a lot of sense to me. Basically, the idea that new knowledge blocks off old, incorrect knowledge. In this situation, we thought nothing was in that area. We then hit that switch and learned something was in that area. And the ability to just see this as an empty path is gone because we've gained new information that something is there. Here. I'll show you another way. This is my favorite magic trick, right? So you take a normal pen, right? And you squeeze it in your hand, like so. And then you give your wrist a little bit of a squeeze. And then let go. And the pen is floating. Now, actually, I'm just using my finger to hold it against my palm. But it looks like the pen is folding. But now that I've shown you that it's just my finger, you can never really see this illusion, right, anymore. You see that I only have 3 fingers down here because you gained the knowledge that this is all just a trick. So you can't go back to seeing it any other way because you know it is just my finger. So basically what I'm saying is because you've learned new knowledge, you can't go back to your other way of thinking. Another interpretation I had of this is that you see the same puzzle over and over again throughout this game with a little bit of a twist. So you will solve a panel and then you'll see the same panel plus a new rule that forces you to think in a different way. This is kind of a metaphor for this. Like, you knew this path and then you did something and now the path has to be different. Another thing that I want to bring up, a couple people brought this up. Patrick brought this up, and I think Pedro also brought this up. Or not Pedro, I'm sorry, Draken84 brought this up. That speedrunners, when they're playing this game, actually are able to get back across in time. They basically hit that and then book it, and they're able to get on the other side of that before it's sealed off. I just want to say that the idea of speed running this game is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, this game is so meant to be like explored and like enjoyed that the idea of speed running it just seems so dumb to me. That would be like speed running Enlightenment. Hey guys, back again. This is another any percent Enlightenment speed run, just trying to grind it out, trying to head for that world record. All right, so any percent, just got to get enlightened. Here we go. And Start the clock. I'm meditating, I'm meditating, I'm meditating. I'm eating only rice. I'm eating only rice. I'm eating only rice. I'm letting go of my possessions. I'm letting go of my possessions. I'm doing yoga. I'm doing yoga. I'm doing yoga. I'm doing yoga. I'm feeling one with the universe. I'm feeling one with the universe. I'm feeling one with the universe. The bowl is empty. I understand that this is at its most useful. I'm escaping the cycle of reincarnation. I'm escaping the cycle of reincarnation. I'm escaping the cycle of reincarnation and nirvana. Time! That's a new personal best. I'm still 3 seconds off the world record set by Buddha Bear 320, but I'm on your heels, man. Join me next time for another Enlightenment speed run. So stupid.
I was thinking about going up the mountain, but I actually want to go this way today. There's a lot of cool stuff this way. I really enjoy the barn, so we're going to go take a look at the barn. That should set off your spider sense. But that's something for later. I believe... Oh, there is one here, but you can't do it from this angle. You have to get inside first. That's a real cool one. Yeah, there's a little sneak preview. There's stuff in there. So let's go ahead and head in here. Well, actually, I might be in the wrong spot to do this. I might have to go downward. Yeah, I'm supposed to be at the bottom of this, not the top of this. Alright, how do I get down there? I'm too high up the mountain. Maybe we are going to the top of the mountain. So there's this weird craggy area. We're just trying to figure out what's going on with this game. Apparently, I don't know how to get over there. That should set off your spider sense as well. Look at that. Not from here, though. This seems of note, right? How do I get over there? I don't remember how I get over there. Herm. In any case, let's do this. So this is a little bit frustrating. This part here moves. So currently I can't... Doesn't even want to let me do this. There you go. I can't actually complete this one. I think I have to do it while it's moving. Or at least while it's pointing in a different direction. Not doing this one either. Alright, let's see. How do I... Oh, there's how I get down there. I don't know how I get to... We gotta do this. And I think I came from the wrong way, because the controls are over there. Crap. Alright, what are we doing today then? Maybe we'll go up the mountain, after all. There's some cool stuff to talk about when we go up the mountain. Alright, we're going to go up the mountain for a little bit, talk about some mountain stuff. This I always found very interesting, because this doesn't look like a path. You can climb the tree, which doesn't really do anything for you. But you can tell that that's something, but I don't have... Oh, here we go. Boom. This game's clever. I love this game. Alright, keeping an eye out for stuff. Just gotta keep looking everywhere. So, this is the woman reaching up. There's also like a weird face here, in my opinion. Like, eyes, nose. There is a... I was going to say urban legend, but it's not even an urban legend, it's true. There's a story about a man who had a conjoined twin in the back of his head. They did they mentioned him on the 4th season of American Horror Story. He's a real person. I'll find footage of him. He's terrifying. But basically the face on the back of his head was evil. And It couldn't like speak because it wasn't like connected to any vocal cords or anything, but like it would make expressions and stuff. Very creepy stuff.
More information on the man with the face on the back of his head. His name was Edward Mandrake, and while the face on his back could not speak or talk or groan or anything, it did emote. It would frown, and it couldn't make any noises, but he swore that when he slept, it would whisper terrible things to him. And in truth, this story is not true. You might have seen it on American Horror Story, but this is a legend. This was originally printed in like a novelty fake medical guide, and all pictures of it are too high quality to be from the time it claims to be. So it's just not a real story. So chances are I'm not seeing a face where I think I see a face, and that story is not true. So make of it what you will.
Anything else I can see from this angle? It's also interesting that it's clearly wearing away. Like you can see, like this is where that arm was connected. So it's...
Did you see it? There's actually a flower here. We talked about these flowers a lot in the mailbag episode. We actually discovered what type of flower they were, and we tried to come up with different ideas of what the X meant and the positioning of the flowers. I actually had the idea that there are two flowers by the symmetry door, the one that goes into the boathouse, which is right next to a door that can be opened in many different ways. There's also one over in the marsh where we haven't gotten to yet, where it's kind of on a platform that goes up and down. They're basically all near things that could be solved in multiple ways. So I kind of had this idea kind of brewing that this is a note that there is a singular correct way to do it. And once you've done all the correct puzzles near the flowers, something would happen. There's not really a puzzle here by this woman. Perhaps this is the spot you go to after you've done that. It's a stretch. It's a thought. I just kind of wanted to bring up, hey, I found one of those flowers. And they're going to come up again later in this video.
It's very interesting to think that this wasn't sculpted from one piece of rock. Just little interesting things to think about. Now let's go ahead and talk to the top of the mountain, because I got lessons to teach up there. Running. Yeah, there's one right there, but I'll explain that one in a second. So all the lasers are pointing here, except for one, but there's an additional puzzle for that laser. So clearly, the lasers are doing something that will power this eventually. At the top, yeah, each laser brings me closer to unlocking this. So I need at least 4 more before I can unlock this box. Lots of very interesting statues here. So we have these guys holding the box, like kind of like the courier here. This guy's trying to destroy whatever this is. This person is surveying. This isn't I don't believe that's a camera. I believe that's a surveyor tool. So they're actually trying to get a lay of the land. This person is preaching about the mountain. This person is exhausted about the mountain. I mean, I guess this person is the creator because he has a chisel, it looks like, in his hand.
Oh, I feel so dumb that I did not realize it in the moment. There are 2 statues here that kind of have the same kind of vibe. In one hand, they have a chisel, something that you would use to make statues. In the other, there is a laptop, and the laptop has a little spot where you could actually put the chisel because they're one and the same thing. I think this is a metaphor for programming this video game. Constructing this mountain, constructing the arches, constructing all of this in the real world, if this was a real world, it would be done with a hammer and chisel to carve down the stone so it becomes this arch. But since this is a video game, it is done and sculpted in a program, in, was it CAD or something like that. So the idea of having a chisel in one hand and a computer in the other basically is implying the architects of the game or the designers. It seems so obvious to me, but I'm pretty sure that's what this is trying to say.
Of some sort. You have this very weird argument going on here. The expression in this woman's face is crazy. And, like, first off, very perilous where this man is standing. And he's got a book. No details on the book, though. But clearly an argument about these two about whatever this mountain is here.
This kind of goes unnoticed by me, but I think it's very important that the person being yelled at in this situation is holding a book over their heart. This could possibly be symbolic of like a holy book, and the idea that this woman is yelling and he is defending himself with faith. So perhaps the man in defensive mode here, it represents faith, and the woman represents science, because she is pointing to something that doesn't really even seem to be there. But I think this is meant to represent the battle of faith versus science. It doesn't say a lot of good things for faith, in that faith is about to fall off a mountain. Perhaps this is just trying to say that science will eventually destroy faith. Possible. But I think the placement of the book definitely puts out a feeling of like beliefs, holding your beliefs close to your heart and being attacked for them.
Oh wow, I just realized there's a person like asleep up there, if you look. Not asleep, but someone's laying up there. It's also clearly like there's some white lines, like, let's see if I can get this. You see it, guys? You see that link? There it is. Looks like there's two either way. And I think this is the first time that a statue has played a part in a environmental puzzle. At least the first one that we've come across. This I find very interesting because, oh wait, I was going to say this is, it looks like he has a computer, but it kind of looks like it is a computer, but it also looks like this tool kind of fits in there. Like, you can see that there's a mouse pad here, but there's no keys, but there is like a spoon here. So maybe it has something to do with like using the game to create some sort of internet presence, like because he's trying to create a computer, kind of like what I'm doing. Huh, this is also interesting. This implies that these boulders were moved here because there's man-made like metal panels here. So this is not a natural structure. None of this is a natural structure. So this is kind of implying that they were planning to build like this shell around this, or at least a wall around it. That's interesting to think about. This was trying to be like protected. Oh. And now let's listen to some audio and discuss the philosophy.
Up there, you go around every hour and a half, time after time after time. You wake up usually in the mornings, and just the way that the track of your orbits go, you wake up over the Mideast, over North Africa. As you eat breakfast, you look out the window as you're going past, and there's the Mediterranean area, and Greece, and Rome, and North Africa, and the Sinai, the whole area. And you realize that in one glance, that what you're seeing is what was the whole history of man for years, the cradle of civilization. And you go around down across North Africa and out over the Indian Ocean and look up at that great subcontinent of India, pointed down toward you as you go past it. And Ceylon off to the side, Burma, Southeast Asia, out over the Philippines, and up across that monstrous Pacific Ocean. Vast body of water. You've never realized how big that is before. And you finally come up across the coast of California and look for those friendly things. Los Angeles and Phoenix and on across El Paso. And there's Houston. There's home. And you look, and sure enough, there's the Astrodome. And you identify with that, you know? It's an attachment. And down across New Orleans, and then looking down to the south, and there's the whole peninsula of Florida laid out. And all the hundreds of hours you spent flying across that route, down in the atmosphere, all that is friendly again. And you go out across the Atlantic Ocean and back across Africa. And you do it again, and again, and again. And that identity, that you identify with Houston, and then you identify with Los Angeles, and Phoenix, and New Orleans, and everything. And the next thing you recognize in yourself is you're identifying with North Africa. You look forward to that. You anticipate it. And there it is. That whole process begins to shift of what it is you identify with. When you go around it in an hour and a half, you begin to recognize that your identity is with that whole thing. And that makes a change. You look down there, and you can't imagine how many borders and boundaries you crossed again and again and again. And you don't even see them. At that wake-up scene, the Mid-East, you know there are hundreds of people killing each other over some imaginary line that you can't see. From where you see it, the thing is a whole, and it's so beautiful. And you wish you could take one from each side in hand and say, look at it from this perspective. Look at that. What's important? And so a little later on, your friend, again those same neighbors, another astronaut, the person next to you goes out to the moon. And now he looks back and sees the Earth not as something big where he can see the beautiful details, but he sees the Earth as a small thing out there. And now that contrast between that bright blue and white Christmas tree ornament and that black sky, that infinite universe, really comes through. The size of it, the significance of it, it becomes both things. It becomes so small and so fragile, and such a precious little spot in that universe that you can block it out with your thumb. And you realize that on that small spot, that little blue and white thing is everything that means anything to you. All of history and music and poetry and art and war and death and birth and love, tears, joy, games, all of it is on that little spot out there that you can cover with your thumb. And you realize that that perspective, that you've changed. That there's something new there. That relationship is no longer what it was. And then you look back on the time when you were outside on that EVA and those few moments that you had the time because the camera malfunctioned, that you had the time to think about what was happening. And you recall staring out there at the spectacle that went before your eyes. Because now, you're no longer inside something with a window looking out at a picture. But now you're out there. And what you've got around your head is a goldfish bowl, and there are no limits here. There are no frames. There are no boundaries. You're really out there, over it, floating, going 25,000 miles per hour, ripping through space, a vacuum, and there's not a sound. There's a silence, the depth of which you've never experienced before. And that silence contrasts so markedly with the scenery and the speed with which you know you're going. That contrast, the mix of those two things, really comes through. And you think about what you're experiencing and why. Do you deserve this? This fantastic experience? Have you earned this in some way? Are you separated out to be touched by God to have some special experience here that other men cannot have? You know the answer to that is no. There's nothing that you've done that deserves that, that earned that. It's not a special thing for you. You know very well at that moment, and it comes through to you so powerfully, that you're the sensing element for man. You look down and see the surface of that globe that you've lived on all this time, and you know all those people down there. They are like you. They are you. And somehow you represent them when you are up there. A sensing element. That point out on the end. And that's a humbling feeling. It's a feeling that says you have a responsibility. It's not for yourself. The eye that doesn't see does not do justice to the body. That's why it's there. That's why you're out there. And somehow you recognize that you're a piece of this total life. You're out on that forefront and you have to bring that back somehow. And that becomes a rather special responsibility. It tells you something about your relationship with this thing we call life. And when you come back, there's a difference in that world now. There's a difference in that relationship between you and that planet, and you and all those other forms of life on that planet, because you've had that kind of experience. It's a difference, and it's so precious. And all through this, I've used the word you because it's not me. It's not Dave Scott. It's not Dick Gordon, Pete Conrad, John Glenn. It's you. It's us. It's we. It's life. It's had that experience. And it's not just my problem to integrate. It's not my challenge to integrate, my joy to integrate. It's yours. It's everybody's. Russell Schweikart, 1975.
That's interesting. We usually listen to those twice. We're not going to listen to that one twice because it was a bit long. I legitimately thought I fell off the mountain for a second there. Yeah, so it's talking about the perspective and how things change when you're moved away from something like Earth, and like how being away from North Korea or North Africa, as they kept saying, but being able to see it created like a relationship with it that had nothing to do with what North Africa was.
Oh my God, let's talk about Rusty. This is a very, very long quote, but I've done a lot of research on it. And Rusty, first off, is awesome. Look up videos of Rusty talking. The voice actress does the best job that she could with this, but hearing it from the man himself is super interesting. He is, in fact, an astronaut. He was on Apollo 9 and actually did a spacewalk. This realization that he had about the relationship with Earth and how it's so far away, but everything important is there, he had during a spacewalk, and he describes this spacewalk. It's very interesting. It was being filmed, and there was a moment while he's doing the spacewalk that the camera jams. So they tell him, like, hold on for a couple minutes. And he describes the feeling of being out of the spaceship, just being in space, in complete silence, because the radio is dead, because they're working, so they're not talking to him, so it's completely silent. The suit is actually not as constricting as you'd think, because the suit is floating and you are floating, so it's less of wearing it, it's kind of floating inside of it. So you're just kind of floating out there in space. And while he was on the spacewalk, he just let go with one of his hands. Luckily, he held on with the other one and swung around and looked around. And these were the feelings and the rush of emotions that he had during this time about being so far away from Earth, but it's still there. And the idea of doing this for us, and that it's all of us out there because he is the representation of humankind currently in space. All super beautiful things that, again, I really recommend you listen to some of his interviews, because it's really interesting to listen to. But few things that I'm going to kind of shoehorn in terms of context of the game. He had this moment because of a camera jam. So he kind of has this moment of realization because he had to wait for the thing that was supposed to witness him doing this act And when he had a moment alone without a witness is when he had this realization. I also really love his talk about it not being him, it is us, because I kind of feel that relationship with this web series. I doubt that Jonathan Blow designed this and included this, so it was a message to anyone who did a web series like this. I doubt it, but it definitely spoke to me in this idea of, while I'm the one playing it, it's us as a community experiencing it. So everything's kind of happening through me. I think it might be a bit pompous for me to compare the act of playing a video game on Twitch with being one of the handful of people to experience space, but I'm doing it. And I think it's kind of wonderful. I also wanted to mention that you find this in what is the highest point of the game, the top of the mountain. So that is the furthest you can be kind of from everything and being able to observe everything. So I think its placement is no coincidence. I think it very much relates to the perspective that you have. And he uses the word perspective. And as we will see in a moment with a very special river, your perspective of where you are in the game, you are so far away from the puzzles and the panels that are all around the island, but they're still there and they're still represented there. And the fact that you can, just like you'll see in a moment, solve the river puzzle, even from that, only from that perspective, I think there's some nice parallels there.
I find it very telling that that particular audio clip was here because of this. Here we have what appears to be a panel, right? But it doesn't do anything. I'm not even sure if it counts as a solve. But it's on like an easel, right? And if you look, it matches exactly this river. This is supposed to be, if you had not already discovered it, the tutorial for environmental puzzles, because this one is so obvious, right? But it's very interesting when you pair it with that audio clip we just listened to. When you're up above it all, you're not looking down thinking about imaginary lines. But yes, I am. Yeah, and you actually can see it clearly go into one of the monoliths. So like this is meant to like explain a bunch of things. It's almost implying like that was not the thing I should be doing. Because like from here I can see pretty much the entire island. Like there's the windmill, there's the castle, there's the forest. And from here you can kind of see that like every landmass of Earth is represented here. Like that's a forest. Then you have a desert over there. Over there is an autumn woods. There's a field. There's a river. There's a town. There's a jungle. There's a beach. There's a lake. There's like a marsh or a bog. Like every type of like location is represented here on the island, which is very interesting. And I can see it all in one view from up here. Maybe that's what I should be taking. Like, is this island supposed to be Earth, just in general? And maybe I shouldn't be looking at this as a gamer right now, and just kind of be looking at this kind of as an Earthling. Like, I know it doesn't sound right, but that's what this Let's Play is. Because, like, I'm up here and I'm like, there's that door that I found. I can see that clearly from here. Also, while I was up here, if you look at that rock right here, totally looks like there's an audio thing. So I'm, like, mentally thinking, okay, I have to go look at that later. But maybe I'm supposed to, like, see past that. I do kind of have, like, a relationship with a lot of these areas. Like, I find this area awful and frustrating. And over here's the starting, so there's like a nostalgic feeling for that area. And like over here, I know I didn't finish this, so there's like a need to come back. So I do kind of have like relationships with different geological locations because of this game.
Hey, just jumping in for a second. Do you see it? Do you see the laser I forgot to light? It's right there, mocking me. Isn't that something? And jumping in again. So we talked a lot about hexagons in previous episodes, and I want to talk about the placement of this particular puzzle. Because this puzzle doesn't do anything when you light it. You can play with it, but it doesn't do anything. It is meant for you to help teach you the discovery of the river environmental puzzle. It's a place that if you didn't happen to stumble upon environmental puzzles on your own, that would kind of educate you, because it's supposed to be a moment where it's like, this doesn't do anything. It's got to be here for a reason. Hey, it's the same shape as the river. What if oh my God. The idea that this is placed on these hexagons, I think, is very interesting for two reasons. One, we talked about the 6 premises of the game, the 6 main points. There are 6 hexagons here, and then there's one in the middle, which would be the 7th. The idea that perhaps that is the combination of all of these points, or that it is somehow the removed element, almost, because the 6 pillars of the game that we keep talking about here, we could also tie into the fact that there is another layer above, which is the environmental puzzle. So I think the representation of having it be taught to you on this shape, I think, is important. The idea that there are 6 main points in the game and then a 7th that is beyond the game. It's a bit of a stretch, but that's the theory I'm going with. I also want to point out that that shape is a flower. Matter of fact, it's the same flower. It's an artistic rendering of it, but in terms of shape and petals and things like that, it's another flower.
That's an interesting thought. So we will return to the mountain. I'm just here noticing also there's the person who's climbing. Didn't really notice him until now. I had to look at him at the right angle. He kind of blends in because he's the same color as everything. Kind of looks like there might be a line on him, like a gray one. Like this could be the start of one, but I can't quite make it work. You see what I'm saying? I wouldn't be surprised if there was a gray. Because I already did 2 white lines. Is this a scarf that's hanging down? Yeah, it's a scarf. That was me stepping. I was like, what is that noise? Huh. There's also a flower up here. That's interesting that the flower's all the way up here at the top of the mountain. Like in the snow. Like that doesn't seem like it would make sense. Whoa! Here's someone ascending the mountain. Yeah, they don't appear to be falling based on the arm placement and the leg placement. They're definitely ascending. Give you a helping hand. Hey, come on up. Yeah, so this is clearly where we'll be headed towards the end of the game. But yeah, there's lots of little weird, interesting secrets here. Looks like there might be another line. Is that? No, that's the one I got already. But there, maybe here? Because that looks like the end of one here. we haven't tried to look to see what this person's filming? Yeah, because perspective is so important. Like, I should probably take the time to try to see what these people are saying. This person's actually yelling at this man, who's, like, oddly ascending this. Interesting. Alright, so that's the top of the mountain. We haven't solved many puzzles here today on the stream, but we found a good audio clip. And now I'm going to try to go down and get that one. Come down the opposite side of the mountain here. There's the climber from behind. That's like cliff face. I'm really impressed that they're able to get up from here. Just walk around. It's really not that hard to climb if you just walk it. Hey! Hello? What is this? In the mountain. Interesting. Okay, so this is a black and white plus a symmetry, right? And it's a blind symmetry. All right, so here's what's going on if you weren't here. It looks like there's only one line, but there actually is a second line right here that is yellow. Now with the blue line, I have to touch the blue little hexagons. With the yellow line, I have to touch the yellow hexagons. So in doing this, I've now, with the yellow line, I've done what I needed to do, and with the blue line, I've done what I needed to do in that first node. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then if I go up here, like, yeah, it's hit that, so that's what I want. And then I just need to separate black and white. The line is here, so that's hard. So I can, no. Because the problem is, oh, you know what I could do? Okay, with the yellow line, I've now moved down 1, over 2, and if I go down here, I'm separating black and white, like I'm engulfing that, and then I gotta go here. No, wait, am I engulfing it? No, I'm not. I gotta go here. So now the black is separated from the white. Then I gotta go like this. And I gotta go like this. That'll separate that. I think I just did it. It's a little confused. It's a little hard to explain because you can't see the yellow. But in doing this, I believe the yellow line has hit both of those yellow hexagons, and that move down at the bottom there has kind of engulfed that black square, separating it from the white square. Pretty nifty. Interesting. Again, a lot of wear and tear on this building here. This is odd. Like, I know you can go by in a boat, so you'll be able to see this very yellow location. But you don't really see anything of note from this location. You'd think that there'd be a reason to stand exactly where I am standing right now. But I currently do not see one. That kind of looks like a dick. Interesting. And then here is your reward. We will go ahead and go to the windmill in another Let's Play, and we'll look at this. I'm going to go ahead and take a picture. Boom. Took a picture with my phone.
And finally, before I get out of here, let's talk about Occam's razor. The most obvious answer is usually the correct answer. And we spent some time talking about how it's kind of strange that the solutions to the windmill puzzles, the prizes for solving these difficult door puzzles, seems to be on something that looks like it's from a photocopier. And we talked about how strange it is, the idea that there is a photocopier somewhere on the island, all this other stuff. You know what the simple solution is? It is a way to tell the player, hey, you need to copy this. Write this down. You're going to need it later. What's important about this isn't in this room. It's deep in the windmill. So copy it down. Makes a lot of sense to me. And that's going to do it for this episode of Solving the Witness. I had a lot to say, so let's run down some takeaways. First off, let's talk again about the idea of this intentionally frustrating area, that damn bamboo sound forest. Do you think this is meant to represent the idea that once you learn something, that it blocks off your previous illogical way of thinking because you now know how things work? Or do you think it means something else? Do you think speedrunning The Witness is stupid? Do you? I'd love to know your thoughts on that in the comments below as well. Edward Mandrake, if you want to add something about that, I don't think it's related to anything that we're doing here. I think it was a throwaway comment. But hey, it's a fun story. Edward Mandrake, tell me what you think. We talked a lot about the flowers. There's 2 flowers in this, 3 if you count the one that's on the pedestal, or holding the pedestal rather. What do you think about those flowers? We need more theories on about those flowers. I think they're the key to something, and I want to know. Chisels and laptops. Please let me know more about the idea of chisels and laptops. I think it's obvious that it's meant to be the designers of the game. The architects of this game is what that represents. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm jumping past something, but that's what I think. The man with the book. Do you think that this is a holy book? Do you think this is faith versus logic, which is my interpretation of those statues? I could be way off. I'm making a lot of bold claims this episode, so feel free to smack me down with some information that I may have overlooked in my overconfidence. Let's see what else. Oh, we got space. If you want to talk about space and Rusty being out in space and the connection with us and you and me saying that playing this game is like being in space, let me know your thoughts on that as well. And finally, the copy machine again. Do you think it's just as simple as a subtle instruction to copy down what you find when you open those boxes? Had a lot to say this episode. I'm going to have a lot to see next episode. And if you want to know what happens, be sure to subscribe to +2 Comedy Gaming so you can join me next time we try to solve the witness.